Hi there. In this video, we'll learn about gradients. A gradient is a graduated blend of two or more colors or tints of the same color. It is used to create color blends, add volume to vector objects, and even add a light and shadow effect to your artwork. Let me draw a shape and add a gradient for a better understanding. Once you've drawn your shape, ensure that it is selected before adding a gradient to it. If you go to the swatches panel, you'll find a few preset gradient swatches already sitting there. All you need to do is click and it shall be applied to your shape. You can also find the gradient tab from where you can make necessary changes to the gradient. You can create a linear gradient to blend colors from one point to another in a straight line. A radial gradient blends colors from one point to another point in a circular pattern. And then there is a free-form gradient which is used to create a graduated blend of color stops within a shape in an ordered or random sequence such that the blending appears smooth and natural. Free-form gradient can be applied either in a point mode, in which case the area around a color stop is shaded, or in a line mode where the area around a line is shaded, something we'll learn momentarily. Let's look at the linear gradient. When you select it, you'll find a line appearing on the shape with two color stops. They're the same color stops that you find here in the panel. When you click a color stop, it tells you the opacity of the color and the location as well. You can also find the angle at which the color has been applied, which is at 0 degree in our example. To change the color of the color stop, simply double-click it, and it shall populate the color guide from where you can pick any color of your choice, and it shall be applied to the color stop. When I click on this color stop, you can find that this has a 0 opacity and the location is at 100%. So no matter what color I choose from the color guide, it will not show here in its full strength because of the opacity. This point in the middle is the midpoint of the gradient annotator. What is a gradient annotator? It is this slider that shows a starting point, an end point, a midpoint, and two color stops for the starting and end points. When you move the midpoint, look at how the color reacts to this location. At the same time, you can see the exact location of the point in the Location tab. Rather than sliding the point, you can even type in the exact location of the point and it shall comply. To add another color stop, all you need to do is take the cursor to the bottom of the annotator, and you shall find the plus sign appearing next to the cursor. Click once, and a new color stop will be added to the annotator. And with a new color stop comes a new midpoint that you can move much like we did earlier. Right now, this color stop has the opacity of 28%. So let's change that to 100%, and you'll see how the gradient changes. Let's also set its location to the exact midpoint, which is 50%. We can keep clicking below the annotator to add as many color stops as we want, and of course, each color stop can have its own color defined by you. To remove the color stop, all you need to do is click it to select it and drag downwards, and it shall be gone. You can even select the color point and click the trash icon next to the gradient annotator to delete a particular color stop. But since I love removing them by dragging them down, I'd rather do that. Now look at this bar sitting on top of the shape. At this point, the color is sitting at a 0 degree angle. But when I change it to, let's say, 45 degrees, look at how the colors move their direction. Like I've mentioned earlier, this bar is much like the gradient annotator sitting in the gradient panel. You can always activate it by clicking the gradient tool sitting in the toolbar panel. The real magic of this bar is that we can define the start and stop of the gradient by clicking and dragging it on top of our shape. And that does not necessarily mean that it has to be completely on top of the shape. We can always start dragging it before the shape, which is the 0 point of the annotator, and drag it and go beyond the shape to define the 100% of the color. To achieve the best result, you might have to do this a few times. Much like in the gradient panel, you can move the midpoints on this bar as well, or change colors of the color stops by clicking them. To apply a radial gradient, all you need to do is click the radial gradient icon in the gradient panel, and it shall be applied to your shape. The rest of the settings, whether it is location or opacity or angle, work the same way as in the linear gradient. Using the gradient bar, you can drag it to define the start and stop of the gradient and also the angle of the gradient. An important thing to note is that the linear and radial gradients can be applied on the fill and the stroke of an object. However, the freeform gradient can be applied only on the fill of an object. To apply a freeform gradient, just click the freeform icon, and it shall be applied to the shape. Right now, the point option is selected, which is why you could see these 4 points in the shape. To change it to the line option, just click the line, and then click one of the points to change the color, should you want to. Now, the moment you move to the next point, the transition happens in a line, because we've chosen the line option. Similarly, when we move on to the third point, you'll find that the line freeform gradient applies color in a linear directional manner. So instead of individual color points, you create color lines on the object. Hence, the color transition occurs along these lines. When we select the point freeform gradient and add points, you'll find that the colors are applied in a more localized and specific manner. Oh, I forgot to tell you that if for some reason you don't find the gradient panel, you can always go to Window and select the gradient option from there. The shortcut to show the gradient panel is Command F9 on a Mac or Control F9 on a PC. In the swatches panel, if you just want to see the gradient swatches, you can select the Show Gradient Swatches option, and the view will be restricted to just the gradient swatches. And since we just have 3, it is showing only those 3. If you go to the library option from here, you'll find a list of different swatches. From here, you can click the gradient swatches, and you can find a wide variety of gradient swatches sitting here. You can pick and choose the one you'd like to add to your project. You can then click each gradient to check out the color composition or make changes to these compositions as per your need. To save a gradient swatch is pretty simple, and you must have learned it in my previous video. All you need to do is have the shape selected, and then click the plus button sitting in the swatches panel, give your swatch a name of your choice, and hit OK, and you shall find your swatch sitting there. You can even apply the gradient to the stroke. Actually, let me draw the shape afresh and increase the width of the stroke for better visibility. Now click the stroke option to reveal the swatches and select one of the preset gradients, and it shall be applied to the stroke. All the other settings will work exactly the same way as in the fill option, but just remember that only the linear and radial gradients can be applied on the fill and the stroke of an object. Lastly, to add a gradient to more than one shape at the same time, have all the shapes selected together. Actually, let me make a few copies of the shape. Now I'm going to select them all together and fill them in with a gradient. Now let's click the gradient tool from the toolbar to activate the gradient bar. Now let's change the angle of the gradient, and you'll find how the colors flow together in uniformity. You can always move the color stops to tweak the settings as you want, or add different colors to the color stops like you've learned a while ago. So guys, that's all about gradients. In the next tutorial, we'll learn about the layers panel. After all, they provide a way to manage all the items that you have created in your artwork. So see you soon in the next one. Goodbye, and thanks for watching.